Welcome to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. Real conversations with entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders who refuse to settle. This isn't about overnight success. It's about the decisions, discipline, setbacks, and standards that shape extraordinary results. If you're building something that matters, you're in the right place.
Hello and welcome to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. I am here with a dear friend of mine, Michele Kehrer. She's an entrepreneur, business coach, investor. She had an incredibly successful exit of her physical therapy practice in Chicago back in 2022. And since then, she's been giving back, helping other entrepreneurs with the day-to-day, helping them get to their own epic event. In that time, she's also a 4-time cancer survivor, and she's recently launched her book, Brave Shift. You can see it there in the background. 30 small but powerful mindset changes that will help you get unstuck and create the life and business you've been chasing. Welcome, Michele. I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. It's always lovely to see your face.
You are just incredibly strong. I love the title, Brave Shift. How did that come to be?
Oh my goodness, there was so many iterations of this book title. It was like resourceful at one point, and then the more we edited and talked and got feedback, the more it was like, no, this is all about being brave and mindset shifts. And the cool thing about mindset shifts is like, it's not a one and done. It's something you can do every day, every minute, every second. And sometimes that's required to get to the other side. And so it was really about like just being brave in the face of adversity.
Well, and you faced obviously your share of adversity with multiple cancer diagnoses. Take us back to maybe the first time you heard that word and how you felt and where your mindset went initially.
Well, I mean, that was like the biggest perspective change of my life, the biggest shift in my life. I mean, because I was always one that was like trying to manage and make sure I had everything taken care of and all my I's dotted and all my T's crossed and like plan for anything that could be unknown and really try to be ahead of the game at all points. And quickly realized that it's not about any of the things that we worry about that could happen. It's the random call on a Tuesday that you get in the middle of your day that says you have cancer. That will level you. That will
So you
change
went from
everything.
being somewhat of a control freak. I don't know if that's an appropriate use of the word, but being in control, running a successful business, having all those I's crossed and or I's dotted and T's crossed, to all of a sudden having something pretty massive in your life that you couldn't control. When you first get leveled, how did you take control of your mindset at that point to actually move forward constructively?
Well, the first thing I did is look around the room and go, who's on my team? And
Mm.
very quickly realized that I had all the wrong players.
Oh, interesting.
And it was fascinating because everyone that I thought I could rely on suddenly disappeared. And so
Mm.
I had to dig deep and figure out, what did I want? Who was I? And how was I going to get through this? And only 10 days later, my business had turned a year old, and 12 days earlier, I had filed for divorce.
Wow.
So, being at a time where everything was in flux and nothing was certain, I really had to get my ducks in a row fast and figure out what were my next steps. The house I was living in was supposed to be temporary and was completely unstable. So it was
Mm.
earth shaking at the core.
Wow. So who or what helped you kind of get your bearings, and what was your first step in moving forward once you realized you had, not your ideal team around you, which I've heard other people say is you kind of find out who your friends are in a crisis, right? You kind of find out who your people are. So what did you do from there?
What was interesting was I would like I've always been a person of faith, and um, I just said, please, God, help me. Like, show me, help me.
Mm,
I don't know how to do this. And I had what I affectionately called my angels. Like, people from
mm,
out of the woodwork came that I had very little connection to or didn't even know suddenly showed up for me. It was absolutely incredible. And I had three people in within a 24-hour period saying, you need to meet Johnny Imerman. And Johnny had just started a charity, which was actually called Imerman Angels. And his group paired up cancer fighters and cancer survivors. And up until that point, the only people that I knew that had beat cancer were older folks and people who were
mm,
dying. Like, I didn't know anyone my age. And suddenly I was surrounded with this
hmm.
powerful group of people that were not just fighting, but thriving.
Wow, that's incredible. What an inspiration. What lessons did you take from those people? Were they,
Well,
yeah.
so I meet Johnny and I was like, oh my gosh, Johnny, my business can help your business. And he's like, Michelle, will you please stop? Like right now, just let people take care of you.
Mm. How hard was that? Yeah, a lot of times people tell me they have a hard time letting other folks take care of them. So what was that like for you, having to learn to let people take care of you?
It was almost impossible until I started going through chemotherapy, and then that forced it on me
Mm,
because I couldn't take care of myself.
mm. And so just kind of sync up the timelines. Where were you in your business by the time you're starting to go through chemotherapy? Like, what business are you running, and what's that business look like in this
So
season?
that was my physical therapy practice that I had sold in
Mhm.
2022, and this was now chemotherapy was January like 2008, and I was diagnosed in
Okay.
2007.
Okay. So you're into your physical therapy practice, and you're growing it because it's only a year and change old, and then you get this diagnosis, and now you have to learn to let people take care of you. How did you how did you do that in that season? Because I've had a lot of clients who've gone through health things in their business, and sometimes it's hard to grapple with how we have to, in some ways, keep moving forward, whatever that looks like, and then in other ways adjust for the season, knowing that, like, even when I was dealing with everything with York being as sick as he was, it was like you can't dwell in it, but moving forward doesn't look the same as when you're completely healthy. So what did that look like for you? What did moving forward look like for you in that really challenging chemotherapy season?
One of my angels, as I like to say, this woman Jennifer, who I had only met in a couple of Chamber of Commerce event, had set up what she called the Michelle's Cool Chemotherapy Calendar. In that, she
Okay.
arranged rides, people to pick me up, drop me off, stay with me, and people to bring food, and people to check on me in the days that followed. And it was beautiful. Now, being in a brand new business, I needed to be working because if I wasn't working, if I wasn't seeing patients, we weren't going to get paid. So sometimes that meant
Mhm.
chemotherapy on Thursday and back to work on Saturday, which was exhausting,
Wow.
but it needed to get done. And so it was a combination of do whatever I needed to do to get to the other side, um, and then figure out also how to conserve energy so that I could have those short bursts of energy.
That's incredible, and I do think that there's when survival is your only option, we summon the strength. We summon the strength to keep moving forward. It's almost like, quitting wasn't an option for you. What did you lean on to help keep your mindset as strong as you
I
could?
had a office manager, and she was a single mom. Her daughter had the same birthday as I. And when I was laying in bed, completely exhausted, bald, not wanting to move, I was like, okay, Brandy needs to eat. Brandy needs to eat. So if I get up today and I can go to work, we'll make money and Brandy can eat. And I outsourced, help for someone else to get me to move.
It's absolutely incredible that you were able to tap into others' focus when you're going through something so significant. There's a great quote I'm reminded of. It's from Nietzsche, and he said, "The strong enough why we can accomplish anyhow." And what that tells me is you were really tapping into a why that was bigger than yourself. So how did you faced that? You obviously got through that season. What do you recall on the coming out of it? What do you recall about how when you're looking back in that, and you recall finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel from chemotherapy? What comes to
Well, it
mind?
was a pretty dang short window. So I was free and clear to go back to running, working out, whatever, at the end of July of that year. And
Wow.
being feisty as I am, I decided that I'm going to run the Chicago Half Marathon 6 weeks later.
Girl,
And I did. I did
you're
it.
crazy.
Um, so I
Oh my
had this
gosh, that's
moment of like,
incredible.
oh my gosh, and my divorce had been final by then. So I'm like,
Wait, had you ever run a marathon or
I,
half marathon
I
before?
had
Was
run a
that
marathon
something
once
you were
before. Yeah. But
you
it had
had?
been a
Okay.
little while.
So you
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
what you were getting yourself into a little bit. Okay, okay. So was it like, was that about, I have to prove something? Was it
Yeah.
you were
Like,
just so
I'm
itching?
proving
Okay,
I beat
yeah.
cancer. Woo. um,
Okay,
Yeah, so I
that's
went
amazing.
ahead and I did that. And at the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I was just elated because I was like, I'm single. My business is going to turn two. I'm healthy. This is amazing. So that lasted until Christmas Eve when I went back to my doctors, and they were like, oh yeah, you should, do breast exams and all these other things. And I was like, why? And 4 days later, I'd found out I had stage 4 cancer. So it was a number
So this is
two
number two now. This is
within
the
the same
second.
year of being treated. Yeah, that was tough. That was a harder journey.
And so immediately when you get that news, where does your mind
It
go?
is something bigger than me. Is this bigger than me? I
Mm,
had lived life like I was kind of some superhuman and I can do anything. And
mm-hmm.
it was really leveling, to think about, could this be what takes me out?
Mm. So you're kind of really facing a mortality that very few people face as young as you are. How did you proceed? How did you keep moving forward in
I
the
became
face of that?
very introspective and very quiet. I did not tell many people. And I had to
Okay.
figure out what is my path and how do I move forward in this? Do I want to move forward in this? I mean, that certainly is an option.
Mm. Like, do I want to fight or do I want to accept
Yeah.
it? Which I'm imagining other people have felt a similar decision point when they're faced, particularly with a major health crisis. You obviously chose to fight. Where did that come
I,
from?
I just I just think that I'm here for something bigger. Yeah.
Love that. What gives you that feeling? Because I believe that too. I believe we all have an incredibly significant purpose printed on our heart, and I believe that it shows up like we have little flickers of desires that are actually kind of pointing us to this purpose, but it's still a journey to discover what the real purpose is. So how did you make peace and acceptance with I'm here for something bigger, so that means I've got to go through this crap again?
I guess I would always joke, if you want to have a pretty big impact, you need to go have some street cred. So
Oh, well, I was just talking with someone else, and there's so much truth to that. When you think about the people that inspire you the most, they've never had this easy cush life. They've gone through some things, and not, but it really is. It is the battle tested journey that helps us see what incredible what people are really made of. So you had this awakening that, okay, I have to have a big impact, so I probably have to go through some pretty big valleys. How did you take those next steps? How did you stay, mindful and motivated and optimistic, and maybe in some cases you didn't. Tell us a
yeah,
little
I
bit
mean,
about
I
that.
went back to what do I need to do today? What do I need to do tomorrow? Which is, yeah,
Okay,
wonderful
that's
in the
helpful.
to get through the thing, but also the shadow side of that, the downside of that was I was not looking at the future. And if it's one thing that if I
Mm,
could hold both. And so often, like when I'm coaching my clients now, I'm like, we have to run two parallel paths. What's the
yes.
what what's
Speak to
the
that more.
biggest
That's so
impact we
good.
can have right now? And what is the best
Mm-hmm.
thing for our long-term goal? Because if you don't run those, you end up on the other side of things
Mm-hmm.
nearly bankrupt. And
Mm,
that is one more thing,
right.
hurdle to get through. So I
Right.
didn't know that at the time, and that's one of the lessons is look into the future and handle today.
Look into the future and handle today, and really blend the two together. That's so good, because you also it makes sure that the step that you're taking today is aligned with the big picture. So you're still in your physical therapy practice. You're handling today. You're looking into the future. I imagine there's some good days and some bad days. So over year 3 of your business, what did your business look like, and what did your day to day in your
Well,
business look
I
like?
wasn't looking into the future at that time, but what was happening was exponential growth. And we had crazy top line growth, but I wasn't managing expenses or
Wow.
people. So I had virtually no bottom line growth.
Mm, okay. At what point did you finally realize that? Because that's a great entrepreneurial lesson, to look at, the through line of top line all the way to, profit, and what are you actually taking home, and the day-to-day cash flow and P&L. So when did you finally catch on that, hey, I've been great at this one side of my business, but this one's maybe I took my eye off the
When
ball
I found
here.
myself running my personal credit card to meet payroll every 2 weeks and
Oh,
$250,000 in debt.
okay. So another probably gut
Yeah.
punch. You had the health gut punch, and that's not uncommon. For maybe the amount is more than some people have experienced, and honestly maybe less than some people experience. But a lot of business owners have found themselves upside down in the financial space, even when all things revenue are looking good. How did you face that? How did you accept and
Well,
deal with that?
I thankfully great friends around, and a friend of mine. I was like, I really need some help. So he came in, he looked at my books, and he's like, you need a new accountant. I said, okay. So he had reached out to this woman,
Okay.
and he had given her instructions to help me close the business and liquidate. I did not get
Oh,
that memo. So the first,
you were that was not
Yeah,
what you
well,
had signed up
the first
for.
time I met with her, I said, "Okay, Laura, like, how do I get out of this?" And she's like hearing what David had told her and then seeing me and my optimism. And thankfully, she went with me. And yeah,
Thankfully.
right? And she went ahead and she gave me very specific instructions on what to do and how to do it. And I ended up orchestrating what she calls the fastest turnaround of a business she had ever seen to that point in her career.
Wow. What were some of those things that she said, "Hey,
We
get
had to
really
get lean.
serious
You
now."
know, there was like anything that didn't make sense,
Okay.
stop, and focus only on making money. Stop it.
Like
Yeah.
stop the bleeding.
And some of that met employees. Like if they weren't doing their job, they had to go. And I
Mhm.
really took that to heart and I looked at every single thing that we were doing and I changed out every single one of my vendors except for one to save money and to
Wow.
improve what we were doing. And so that's when I really started to run those two paths of if I want to be here
Mhm.
2 years from now, 10 years from now, what do I need to do? And how do I get to the place where I'm flush with cash as quick as possible?
What would you tell all business owners right now if they're not seeing their bottom line grow as fast as their top line? What would you maybe tell them to look at or do? Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200 right
It's
now,
going to
do
sound
this.
crazy, but get a coach, get someone that is objective because often small to medium business owners, they're too emotionally connected to their business to see the forest through the
True.
trees.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so huge. It's perspective. A lot of coaching, and there's a million kinds of coaches. You're a coach, I'm a coach. We coach kind of different aspects of people's business. So there are a lot of different kinds of coaches, but a lot of coaching is somebody who's outside of your day to day that can help you see that perspective, give you that perspective, and really ask the question so that you can determine what path you want to choose. So you had this incredible turnaround. How long did the turnaround take? Tell us a little bit about
I guess I
the
don't remember.
turnaround
I always
itself.
think I'm like, I should go back and see how long did that take. I don't, maybe like 1 year. I mean, it was pretty quick to adjust.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and
all things
then
considering, yeah.
it grew and grew and grew. Like it kind of was like one thing led to another, to led to prosperity.
Snowball.
Yeah.
Mhm. So then your physical therapy business, you're now back on track. You've got vision. And what's the next, kind of the next right action? So you're running that. This is what, like 2010,
No,
11,
10,
somewhere in
10,
that
11 is like
range?
kind of when the bottom fell out. 10 was like a year of like a blur. 11 was when this was like the
Okay.
downfall of things. So it probably took maybe to like maybe 2 years, 2012, 2013, when things are like, all right, this is cool. And
Okay.
I had my lease was coming due. Um, I had a 10-year lease. And so in 2016, my lease
Mm,
was coming due. And the building that I was
okay.
in was terrible. And a friend of mine had just sold his business and was on the hook for this sublet for about, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, something like that, downtown. And I lived downtown Chicago. So I was like, wow, that would be pretty cool. So we orchestrated this stealthy business move with, that occurred over a
Mm,
weekend. And we didn't tell anyone it was going to happen until like the very, very last minute, like Friday. Oh, by the way, your next
okay.
appointment is going to be at 1 East Erie and not here at this clinic. Because I
Interesting. What
I
was the
was so
reason for being
afraid I
so
was going to lose
stealthy?
clients.
In hindsight, do you recommend the stealth approach, or were you
Well,
worried about,
I
worrying for
wrote a
nothing?
book, and I don't know that everyone should do all the things that I recommend. You have to be pretty brave, and you have to be really like gutsy to pull off some stuff. That said, there's a lot of little mini things you can do. Um, and so, I mean, I am a big risk, big reward type person. Let's go.
All right.
And so yeah, so yes and no, I suppose.
Okay. So you move into the better facility, right? It was an upgrade. It was an upgrade. You were stealthy, surprised your clients. Did a lot of them
All but
stay through
two,
the
thankfully.
transition?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, one of them
That's
was New Year's
incredible.
End anyway, and it
And
was all good.
how did you keep the business? What were some of the things you were doing in the season for the business to continue to be growing? So give us some of your kind of your business insights and your business lessons learned in
Yeah,
this
the
growth
beautiful
phase.
thing about that move was we cut overhead down by, I think it was something insane like 70%. So immediately. So like
Wow.
70% of that money could go to the bottom line. Holy mackerel, that was good.
That's
And it was a
incredible.
smaller space. And so we became a tighter group because we could see everything all the time. And I
Mhm.
also was starting to get very, very vulnerable with my team and just saying, I don't know really what the heck I'm doing. I'm doing the best I can, but I could use your help. If you have good ideas, let's bring those to the table. Like, there's no bad ideas here.
Excellent. Crowdsourcing before
Agreed,
it
agreed.
was popular. What did you learn about like culture and leadership and team building and communication and any of those things in that
What I
season?
learned, the biggest thing was the more open I was with my staff about the reality of what was going on, the more they bonded around me and with me to get through.
That is that's huge because I think sometimes as leaders and as business owners, we want to put on a brave, happy face. We want to pretend like everything's perfect. We want to insulate the team. I've got this. Don't you worry. And what I'm kind of hearing you say is actually the opposite. That the more transparent, the communication improved, the the culture. I mean, not that it was a bad culture, but that it improved when they felt like maybe they were in the game with you as opposed to it's your game and they're just spectators.
Yeah, and it eliminated all the stories, right?
Oh, like the gossip,
Yeah.
the chitter chatter,
Even just
the
like, they're thinking, oh my
wow,
gosh, Michelle's
yes.
doing so well and everything's great and da da da, and where are we in this and all of that. And so when I came to the table and I said, listen, friends, this is not good. Like, I want us to have a company. I want us to have jobs. I want all of this to happen. But right now, I don't know if it's going to happen and I need your help. It,
Okay. So they're now on Team Michelle, that we're all in a team together and everybody's growing and contributing. What does that look like over the next couple years in the new location and as you're working
it
together
was
on
so,
that now?
yeah, it was
Or
actually
as
so
you were
fun
working?
because
Yeah.
like it was a tiny little office that was not made for physical therapy, but it was a sublet and I could afford it. Yeah. And
Figured
the
it
space
out.
next door was this big, beautiful place that had a sink in it and all this, like all these things. So, they'd come into work and they'd peek in the window of the door and they're like, oh, we want that. And I said, all right, well, I ran the numbers and we need to get to 200 patient visits a week. And if we do that, we'll move. And they're like, okay. And so that became the thing. And we all rallied around that one goal. Let's help so many people that we can move to a bigger space so we can help more people.
That's incredible. I love that vision, goal, kind of a joint. Everybody's rowing towards that. How did you actually grow the patient visits? What was kind of the practical, tactical ways? How do you go from whatever you had to that 200 patient visits a week in a more tangible way?
We had to stop being sloppy. Um, we had
Oh,
patients that would just sort of come and go as they pleased, and without us directing. And I was like, no, we're the boss of our patients, and they've entrusted us to get their health better. That means we must be the boss of them.
mm, Yeah. You have to be the expert. They don't know what they don't know. You know the path to them hitting their health goals, their physical therapy goals. So it sounds like being really acting as the
Yeah.
experts that you were.
Yeah.
What did that look
Well,
like
it
on the day
was,
to
I
day?
had, also like in meetings and things like that, I ran meetings first. And I was like, well, this is silly. Like, I shouldn't run the meetings. They should run the meetings. Right. Because it's like I would just drone on and they would,
Hmm.
close out. And so I had a different employee run the meetings. And then I had another epiphany. I'm like, when we're saying numbers, like someone shouldn't say someone else's numbers. Let them say their own numbers. And so we went around this
Hmm.
meeting, and one employee had to admit out loud to her team that she had only seen 23 patients and her cancellation rate was 25% for the week before.
Which
Awful.
sounds like it's maybe
Yeah.
not on par.
And
Yeah.
what I did, I said nothing. I just said nothing, right? Like there was like, if, it was, are you going to berate the person? Is she going to get in trouble? Is it whatever? And I just ran this little mini like science experiment of like, if I say nothing, will it fix itself? Will the team manage it? Will she manage it? And lo and behold, the very next week, her numbers doubled. So cancellation.
Interesting. So really
Yeah.
it was her ownership. Yeah, like you were transferring their ownership to them. I'm listening to this book and I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. But the whole theme of the book is whose task is it? And the idea is when we manage, whether it's our kids or our spouse, or in this case, our employees, when we try to manage their task for them, we rob them of the learning, of the growth. And so what I'm hearing you say is as you let her own her task, which was her visits and her cancellation rate. And when she owned that, things started to self-correct. When she was empowered to own her own tasks, she took that seriously. I think the fear too is that they won't take it seriously. Um, were you confident she would, or I mean, was it really that experiment like you described that I don't know what'll happen here? She may
Yeah.
or
I mean,
she may not.
it truly was like, let's see what happens. She either rises or she gets to go work for someone else, whether that's her choice or mine, like, and really it became like her choice or the team's. Like the team would then come to me and say, we need to get rid of so and so
Wow,
because they're just not cutting it. Like I no longer managed people. I was truly able to help them
interesting.
move in a way that they would grow personally and professionally. And it is a whole dynamic changed.
That's incredible. And so did you see pretty consistent growth for the next several years, or was it
Oh,
linear,
we got to
nonlinear,
200 patient
bumpy?
visits in this 1,500 square foot, poorly laid out facility. It was absurd. We got to 2% cancellation rate, which is unheard of. Um, and
Wow,
the best thing was we were having fun doing it. So there were 4 or 5 people treating at
that
a
is.
time and sort of on top of each other, but the communication was so tight. The patients were having fun. Everything was great. And we were able to move to that bigger space.
That's fantastic. So you move into the bigger space, and then is the goal to keep expanding
Yeah,
in that
now we had to fill it.
space?
It
What
was
what
it was, if we would have
yeah.
maintained where we were, that would have been great. But let's keep the momentum going. Let's add more people to our team. Let's really, really continue to be the best we can be and have more fun by having more fun people around.
Yeah. That's incredible. So what did you have to do to keep that momentum going, or what did you have to do to
Yeah,
to
I think
fill
it was
that
the
new
first time I really
space?
stepped into my role as CEO. You know, that title gets thrown
Mm,
around a lot. Like, oh, I'm the CEO, and you're like, well, yeah, but you're also the only employee. Yeah,
it's just you.
yeah, yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
that.
No, for
Not to
sure.
make
And
fun, but
and
yes.
so it became my job needed to be strategic and really visionary, and um,
Mm,
I had to trust and let go of the other things. Like, so I had a second in command. I know, it was so
Trust and let
good. It
go.
was so good because I had
Yeah.
space and time for myself too.
Well, and it's always that balance, because some of what makes entrepreneurs entrepreneurial and successful is that they are kind of that A type. They're, again, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, but that cannot scale indefinitely, right? We all have a capacity ceiling at some point. And so the only way to really get into the next phase of growth is to trust and let go, and to surround yourself with people to whom you can trust and let go. So you were trusting and letting go. How was that hard for you? Was that second nature? Did you have to
I think it just
trial and
became like,
error?
wow, this works. So let's try more. Let's try more. Let's try more.
Okay.
And it was even whether it was patient care or employee issues or whatever the thing was, we had built such a cohesive team that it became very easy to do. And one fun story was we had hired
That's awesome.
on a new front desk person. And one of the things that we had normalized was difficult conversations. Yeah. So
Awesome.
totally,
Easier
right?
said
And
than
and
done.
so we had, like, we would say, hey, I could go up to any employee or they could come up to me and have a hard conversation. We knew it was not personal. There was no malice. There was no agenda. It was really like, I'm coming from a place of I want to improve our relationship and whatever the thing is. Well,
Yes.
we hire on this girl, and my second in command went to her and said whatever the thing was. And she starts crying. And
Oh boy.
so now my second comes to me and is like, Michelle, oh my God, she started crying. And I start laughing, which is usually not the best response, but I did find it very funny. And she's like, what? And I said, well, look how good we did. We just forgot to tell the new person that this is who we are. I said,
Forgot to let her in on the fact that, hey, we have
yeah.
blunt,
And,
candid,
and and she was like,
direct
oh. I said,
conversations.
so do you want to fix it or should I? She's like, oh, no, I'll go do it. And like popped out of the office and went and fixed it. Well, by the way, here's the thing. We just have uncomfortable conversations. Nothing personal. Like, this is just about growth. Yeah.
It's not personal. Right. Was there any technique to getting the team to that place where they could have those candid and direct conversations without getting feelings hurt? Was there any technique or learning, or did it just evolve, and that's where like, how did that come to be? Because I know a lot of organizations would like for people to not have feelings hurt. They would like for people to be more direct and not passive aggressive or not aggressive. But
Yeah.
how do you get
Well, it was,
there?
I mean, lots of team building. You can't go from complete dysfunction to complete trust in a week or
Right.
a minute or even a year. It was a series of very tactical things to build trust amongst each other with trial and error and being willing, like me coming to the table saying, I'm not perfect. So I'm not going to do it all right. So
Right.
let's figure it out together.
I love that. I love that. So now you're growing the business, and a lot of business owners, their goal is to be able to sell their business. So how do you get to the place that not only could you sell it, but it's time for you to move on
Yeah,
from
I
this
I think
chapter?
it's something that all business owners, no matter where you're at in the business, should go through the exercise of making an attempt to sell the business, whether it's hypothetical or real,
Mm,
because it puts your business in a way of like, you need to go, these are just numbers, they're not personal. This is just the reality, this is not personal.
mm,
So when
mm-hmm.
you, it helped me shift my mindset to be like, if this person's not working out, it's not personal. And instead of, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of business owners will spend so much time and energy on the one that's not working or the thing that's not working, that they
Right.
leave the rest, the high performers and the really great programs to flounder.
There's a biblical passage about throwing pearls before swine, and it's kind of akin to, it's not that we shouldn't help people and give them tools and resources, but at some point, if we're neglecting the good to try to rehab the not a fit, I don't want to say bad, because it's not necessarily that they're bad,
Yep.
they're just not a fit here in this culture, this organization, or but it can be a complete drain on resources, and our 80/20 is backwards in that situation. We're spending 80% of our time and energy resources on the 20% that's the problem or the challenge. So did you decide to sell and then you started going through those paces, or
Yeah, I had
what was your
decided to
process?
sell, and I actually went through two sales cycle. One failed, one successful. And
Okay.
the failed cycle, I chose the wrong team to help. And yeah,
External team?
um,
Like a
right. Yeah. And
business broker
I
kind
did
of
do
team?
my
Okay.
research, and they were not nearly as experienced as I thought they were. And they did not have my back
Got
throughout
it.
the whole thing. They did not coach me well. And this company that was, poised to acquire me, kept me busy with a million mundane things that my broker should have said, no, enough. Like, you have the information.
Hmm.
Um, but because I was so focused on that, I let my day to day slip. And by the day to day slip,
Gotcha. And
okay, by letting the
oh, sorry. How would you have researched your broker differently, or how did you in hindsight after
I
learning that
went to the
lesson?
best of the best. Like, they were much more
Okay.
expensive than the broker I chose.
Mm,
But they made up their fee in one conversation. So I was like, okay, there's a
okay.
reasons why you pay experts, expert fees. You know, what you get, what you pay for.
Right. So when you went through the second experience, it was night and day difference. And you obviously did a little more due diligence on that organization, and felt like it was a much better fit. What was the second experience like, or what were some of the
Yeah, well, I had learned quite a lot about the
notable points
business.
of the
Like, as
second
like
experience?
go through, and that's where I really like encourage people to go through even a dry run of it, because you'll
Mm-hmm.
learn all the things that there's no way of learning. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, like, numbers are just numbers. Like, results are just results. The results are there or they're not. And period. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not. You don't get to justify why and how and things and all of
Yeah.
that. Uh,
Like taking the emotion out of it, taking the excuses, if
yeah.
you will, out of
And
it.
I was able to look at my company from a very objective place, and I knew what they wanted and what they didn't, the buyers would want and not
Mm,
want. And so, when at every turn, when they tried to devalue me, both my broker and I was able to stand up for myself and say, no, no, that's not legitimate. And it was a pretty seamless process.
interesting. That's incredible. And so that was obviously massive for you to launch into the coaching space. Did you go right into kind of the coaching and business consulting
No, I
space
took a little bit of
thereafter?
time, and moved to Florida, actually. Yeah, and
Woo-hoo.
I decided, really, like, what was I want? What did I need? What did I want? What did I want to do? And took the time to really figure out
Mhm.
who I in all of this, before I was moved into that. And one of the things that I did was, like, what did I really love and miss about my business? And what if I could
Mm.
only do the things I love? What would that look like? And I decided to go down that very slim route of coaching. Yeah.
I love that. And so now tell us a little bit about how you help business owners and executive
So I
teams
love
now.
it's the people stuff. I love the people stuff. Like, I love helping people
Mhm.
figure out how to work together in a very cohesive way.
Yes.
And different personalities, different skill sets, you need them all. to make a business go.
Hmm.
So how do you take all these different pieces of the puzzle and put them together for great success?
I have to imagine for many businesses, two of the things that you hit on today, being able to have direct, candid conversations with each other and just simply say, this is working, this isn't working, without feelings being hurt, without there being, the big cloud of emotions and drama. That has got to be huge for something that you can help businesses incorporate. And also really being skilled and non-emotional about either we have the right people in the right seats or we don't, and not keeping and trying to rehab people well past their useful contribution. I have to imagine that those are probably two of the things that you partner with businesses a lot on. Is that
Yeah, for sure.
fairly accurate?
Because I was doing all this growth coaching for a while, which is wonderful. But really, what I learned the most was it's the people behind it. Like you could have the best system in place, but if you don't have the right
Yes.
people, or the people are in alignment, or they're not in agreement, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, the strategy on paper means nothing at that point if you've got the wrong people or you've got the drama or you've got the saboteurs or you've got the people that aren't carrying their weight. So how did the book come to be? When did you start this book and what was that process like for you? And
Yeah,
tell us a
it
little
took
bit
about
about the
10
book too.
years to get it off the ground. I mean, it's really kind of crazy.
Okay.
Everyone thinks like, oh, a book,
Yep.
it's like going to be immediate. It's not. And, that all had to come in time too. So we went ahead and I worked with different coaches and things like that. And I was, the one coach that I had that had the biggest impact on me was like, the book will show up when it's time. Like, do not stress.
Hmm.
So I would write and write and
Okay.
write, take a break, write and write and write, take a break. And I really believe that this is the right time for it to come to be. It was incredible, the whole process. Exhausting. It was more exhausting and more expensive, but also more exhilarating than I ever thought it would be.
Tell people a little bit because I feel so blessed that I got an advanced readers author's copy to read in advance, and I think it's phenomenal. I love the concept, absolutely love the concept that it's about little shifts, because I think so often we see something and we think, we see the gap between where we are and where that something is, or where that dream or where that goal is, and it just feels so mountainous. And what your book does so well is it's really just about a lot of little, whether they be action shifts or perspective shifts, mindset shifts. And it really is the compounding of those. It's the aggregate of those over time, not, oh my gosh, you need to do, a 90-degree upward trajectory now or else. And so tell us a little bit about some of the concepts and maybe your favorite one, or tell us about some things that people will get from it when they pick up a
Yeah. Oh my
copy
gosh.
for
Thank you.
themselves.
Yeah. So the big deal is it's not about changing everything. It's about changing a few things that change everything.
Oh, okay, hang on. It's not about changing everything. It's about changing a few things that change everything. That's incredible. Yes, go on, because I just wanted to highlight,
Yeah,
underscore, because
and
that's
it's
powerful.
it's the New Year's resolution thing. It always gets me. Like everyone is like, "Oh my gosh, I need to." It's basically a laundry list of all the things that was wrong with your life, and you're like, and somehow you think that you're
Yeah,
going to, yeah,
there's
you're
all
going
the
to turn
ways
it
I
all around in
suck.
like 15 minutes or something. Um, so instead, I turn that on its head and say, just pick one, and just pick one and work on that every
Love
day
it.
and then see what happens. And then when you're good at one, it's momentum, right? What you get at one, good at one, you're going to do another one. And it was, one of the things they tell you when you're writing a book, keep it, you know, 10 rules of this or 4 rules of this. And I'm like, okay, life is not
Mhm.
that. Like you need a lot of tools in your toolbox to get through life. And that's why there's 30.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, I can't stress enough how wonderful the book is. It's worth the read. What I like too is in this fragmented media age, it's an easy read, but it's powerful. And you don't necessarily have to read it cover to cover, though I did, but you can just read one lesson at a time. You could probably flip through and find like which one of these is speaking to me right now. Tell people where they can
So
get the book.
it's available anywhere you get books. Amazon. You can go to my
Okay,
website,
that's
which is
easy.
my name, and it has all the links. But then,
One L Michelle and Kehrer with a
yes, ma'am.
Kehrer.
And there's a little
Gotta get
thing to fill out on the website to go ahead and tell me your story. So you go ahead and just like introduce yourself, and
love
I
it.
answer all of those. So please just reach out and tell me what you think, and we'll go from there.
That's fantastic. And Michelle also speaks to groups on the concept of a brave shift. So if you're a part of a group, she's phenomenal. I have to tell before we go, I have to tell one funny story. So I had the honor and privilege of Michelle coming over to our house, and my son York, who you'll hear me mention every once in a while, York got to meet Michelle, and we were working on remembering people's names. And so he did, I don't know if it's a mnemonic or whatever you call that, but he's Michelle, and he did, her hair like a clam shell. So later, as we're asking him her name later, he called, oh my gosh, it kills me. But he was so proud of himself because he remembered
I know.
Miss Clam.
Oh, I love York. Oh my gosh, he is the peanut.
So that's my guy. That's my guy. He so close, so close. But that has now been the family joke. Even Averly, my daughter, will go, "Oh, Miss Clam," which is probably not the name you want it to be totally remembered by, but I think it's the best story ever. And we are working on memorization techniques and introducing ourselves properly. We're working on that with York. But Michelle, you are just an incredible lead by example person. You've been through a lot and through it all. Even for those of you who maybe are listening to this or don't know Michelle, today was actually a tougher day for her, and she just shows up anyway and she gives it her all. And frankly, you'd never know. And that's the power of being relentless. Being relentless isn't about all days are easy. It isn't about that everything comes easy or everything's hunky-dory and great. Being relentless is how do you show up the best way that you possibly can in that season? And Michelle does that relentlessly. So thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us today. I took so many nuggets from our conversation, and I hope everyone else did too.
You.
Stay relentless.
Thank you for listening to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. If you want to build discipline, resilience, and results in your own work, that's what I help leaders and entrepreneurs do through coaching, speaking, and training. If today's conversation got you thinking about how you'd like to show up, you can find me through the links in the show notes. Until next time, stay relentless.